Tonight's big stories. Signal number one over at least 20 areas as tropical depression Aghon slightly intensifies. Where is Aghon headed and how much rain is it packing? We'll give you more details on its track later on.
Defense Secretary Gibot Teodoro calls China's order to arrest trespassers in the disputed West Philippine Sea a provocation.
And a bill seeking to ban TikTok and other apps controlled by, quote, foreign adversaries has been filed at the lower house. We will be speaking to the author himself, Manila Representative Benny Abante, and delve into the finer details of this bill.
Welcome to the show. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro.
And I'm Sean Yao.
If you got a taste of the strong rains this afternoon, that's actually the first tropical cyclone of the year making its presence felt. Let's get more details on Aghon. As I mentioned, the first cyclone of the year, and we have with us mobile journalist and former Panahon TV reporter Francis Orsho. Francis, nasaan na ba itong si Aghon?
Gretch, Angela, and Sean, based sa nakikita nating satellite animation itong bagyong Aghon and based on the latest bulletin from Pag-asa, ang center nitong tropical Aghon ay nasa 145 kilometers east of Surigao City. And itong sa ngayon ay binabaybay niya or ang movement and track nitong bagyo ay nasa northwestward at nasa bilis yan na 20 kilometers per hour. Sa ngayon, the gustiness of this tropical depression Aghon is at 70 kilometers per hour and yung sustained winds ay nasa 55 kilometers per hour. And according din sa latest forecast ng Pag-asa ay meron itong multiple na possible landfall scenarios and nakikita natin yan early this morning ng Saturday dito sa bahagi ng southern portion ng Samar. At inaasahan nga natin na by this time ay itong tropical depression Aghon ay mag-i-intensify na into a tropical storm dahil inaasahan din natin habang binabaybay itong karagatan ng Pilipinas ay mag-upgrade pa yan at mag-intensify hanggang sa severe tropical storm and by Monday up to Tuesday, asahan natin na magiging typhoon category pa yan.
Alright, Francis, ito naman ang tanong ko sa'yo. No? Ang alam natin, no, ang bagyo ay kinaklasify base sa lakas ng hangin or wind speeds, wind strength. But exactly how much rain is Aghon packing and enough ba yung mga pag-ulan na yon para mapuno ang ating mga dam na yung marami no, nasa below minimum operating level na sa ngayon?
Well, Sean, based on the latest forecast kasi, nakikita natin by this night up to tomorrow afternoon, nasa 50 or 100 to 200 millimeters of rain yung ibinubuhos nitong bagyong Aghon, especially dito sa may bahagi ng Bicol region and sa may eastern Visayas. And itong 100 to 200 millimeters of rain ay katumbas niyan yung moderate to heavy rains at sinasabi nga din ng Pag-asa na inaasahan natin yung paglabas ng nasa orange and red rainfall warning sa mga areas na maaapektuhan itong bagyong Aghon.
Makakaranas ba ng malalakas na pag-ulan, specifically here in NCR, at saka doon din sa area ng Angat Dam kung saan manipis yung supply ng tubig ngayon doon?
Angela, considering na yung movement or inaasahan natin na track ng bagyo ay dadaan over the east of Luzon, hindi natin inaalis yung possibility na itong bagyong Aghon ay magpapaulan din dito sa NCR. But again, hindi pa natin i-rule out kung ano yung magiging effect nito. Pero dahil nga dadaan siya dito sa may bahagi ng east ng Luzon, asahan natin yung mga pag-ulan din sa bahagi ng Central Luzon, including Bulacan area kung nasaan yung Angat Dam.
This actually isn't a normal trajectory for a tropical cyclone. I mean, minsan natin makikita na pag ganun siya, no? On one hand, blessing kasi it will bring water to different parts of the country. On the other hand, meron bang gale warnings or strong winds na dala-dala nito?
Gretch, sa ngayon wala tayong gale warnings na nakataas according sa latest forecast ng Pag-asa and dun sa bulletin nila. Pero dahil nga nasa tropical depression category na ito, meron na tayong mga areas na sa tropical cyclone wind signal number 1 and ito ngayon yung mga lugar na makakaranas ng mga pag-ulan. Specifically, yung mga nasa storm signal number 1 ay nasa area dito sa may northeastern side ng Mindanao, sa may eastern Visayas and including the Bicol region and southern part ng Quezon.
Okay, Francis, pwede mo bang i-explain sa amin no, kung bakit lately, pag makikita natin yung forecast track na nakaloop dyan sa screen mo, parang nandun lang siya sa gilid sa may eastern seaboard natin, no? Tapos lilihis pa kanan, pabalik sa dagat Pasipiko. Bakit ganon? Ano ba ang mga winds or weather systems at play para maging ganyan yung forecast track?
Sean, if we refer to the data or yung historical data ng mga bagyo natin na nagdaan na nitong mga nakaraang taon, including last year, nakikita natin na kakaunti lang din yung mga bagyo na pumasok sa ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. Actually, medyo historical last year dahil meron tayong El Nino and nakaka-affect yung El Nino sa movement ng mga bagyong pumapasok sa ating bansa. Kaya last year, nasa 10 to 11 tropical cyclones lang yung pumasok sa ating Area of Responsibility. And ngayon, itong nakikita nating bagyong Aghon na first tropical cyclone sa ating bansa ay may recurving yung movement niya. Kahit na nakikita natin na may landfall scenarios sa Eastern Visayas and sa may Bicol region, nakikita natin by Monday and until Tuesday ay magre-recurve na ito into northeastward palabas ng Philippine Area of Responsibility. Pero again, dahil nga nasa karagatan siya ng ating ng Pilipinas, inaasahan natin na mag-upgrade ito and intensify into a typhoon intensity.
Oo, Francis, just to be clear, no, can you tell us again yung mga lugar na may mga storm warning signals?
For the areas na nasa ilalim ngayon ng Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 1 ay nasa Dinagat Island, Surigao del Norte, Surigao del Sur, Agusan del Sur, Agusan del Norte, and including the areas in Eastern Samar, Northern Samar, Leyte, Southern Leyte, Biliran, Cebu, Bohol, and other parts of Quezon Province. Kabilang na nga itong Sorsogon, Albay, Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, Masbate, kung saan yan yung nasa Bicol region.
And as Francis mentioned, it might be a typhoon come Monday and Tuesday, and it will be here over in Luzon.
Oo,
And
pero sa
NCR,
may
no?
bandang kanan. But again, makikita natin no, yung mga colors na dumadaan, Francis, di ba yan yung nag-i-indicate ng strength ng mga rainfall. So, bottom line, uulanin tayo ngayong weekend.
Yes, Sean, uulanin tayo weekend but we are not sure kung aabutin na ba tayo dito sa Metro Manila kasi by Sunday, inaasahan natin yung track and movement nitong Aghon ay nasa bahagi nitong Quezon Province and dito sa may Bicol region. So, yung mga areas na yun yung makakaranas ng mga malalakas na pag-ulan.
Alright, maraming salamat sa iyong comprehensive weather report. And for those updates, we have Francis Orsho. Now, here's some more bad news. There are now brownouts in certain areas, including Metro Manila. Our power supply is running thin with the Luzon grid back on red alert earlier today as over 20 power plants went on shutdown mode. The big story from Shaila Francisco.
Almost 500,000 Meralco customers lost electricity starting 8:30 last night. Some places like Metro Manila, Rizal, Cavite, Laguna, Bulacan, and Pampanga experienced rotational brownouts that lasted from an hour to an hour and a half. Meralco said that they need to implement these rotational brownouts as the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines placed the Luzon grid under red alert for 9 hours. This means that supply was not enough to cover demand.
It simply means the capacity to provide electricity or power on a bigger scale na gusto kong paliwanag, hindi na kinaya yung demand. Yung deficiency levels umabot na sa point na hindi na rin talaga kakayanin kung hindi kami manual load dropping, which is a technical term for rotating power interruptions to balance the system. Kailangan mo nang bawasan yung demand.
According to the Department of Energy, over 20 power plants went offline yesterday, including those that have been offline since 2023. 16 plants were also operating at reduced capacities. The Energy Department is leaving it up to the Energy Regulatory Commission to determine if plants that went offline could be held accountable for the power deficiency.
This could be one of the highest. Definitely, meron silang pananagutan, especially kung nagsasara nila yung tinatawag dati mga threshold. So may mga planta po kaming minamatsagan ng masusi na dapat po makabalik na sila sa serbisyo.
Today, the Luzon grid has been on yellow alert since 1 p.m. and will remain so until 11 this evening. Meralco continues to encourage large businesses to use generators for now to help bring down demand. As for the DOE, it still cannot say if the power interruption experienced last night will be the last for the month of May.
Hindi po namin inaalis yung sitwasyon na pwedeng magkaroon ng yellow alert at sana po walang red alert dahil na rin nga po sa mataas pa rin ang demand natin.
And this high demand will likely hike power rates next month.
Then there is really that possibility of buying power at a more expensive rate and which will eventually impact on the overall generation charge. Karoon ng pressure sa supply at na-outstrip ng demand and supply, nagkakaroon din po ng pressure na tumaas sa merkado. But still, even if it's not a red alert status, either way, there is still pressure for prices to go up dahil syempre, mas less yung supply na naibabato sa merkado.
Aside from the Luzon grid, the Visayas grid also remains on yellow alert from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
Up next, a 165-meter China Coast Guard vessel tagged as the world's largest makes its way into Scarborough Shoal. The details when we return. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
One maritime expert reports that a Chinese ship dubbed as the Monster, otherwise known as the largest Coast Guard ship in the world, went on a brief intrusive patrol in the Panatag or Scarborough Shoal. This with just barely a week to go before China says it will begin arresting trespassers in the disputed waters. Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro has also commented on China's order today, and Julie Baiza has that report.
Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro described as a clear provocation China's recent threat to arrest supposed trespassers in the disputed West Philippine Sea. Teodoro says China's order to Chinese Coast Guard is irresponsible as they do not have basis to prove that the West Philippine Sea is their territory.
We live in a world of disinformation and malign information. Is this a provocation? No. I believe what a provocation is the roguish and irresponsible threat to detain quote-unquote trespassers in what is claimed as internal waters but is actually part of the high seas and part of the West Philippine Seas by a country.
The Defense Department notes that although all countries have the freedom of navigation within our exclusive economic zone, China still does not have the right to implement their new policy in the Philippines EEZ. Teodoro adds that China is also seemingly disregarding the United Nations Charter that prohibits countries to use its forces in enforcing their maritime claims. Amid the tensions, the Secretary assures Filipinos that maritime cooperation between the Philippines and other nations continue. He says no other country can dictate to the Philippines how it should defend its own territory.
Terming these cooperative activities with like-minded nations as a containment or a provocation is disinformation and evidence of paranoia of a closed political system. And the ultimate intent is to get what they want by the threat or the use of force. This we cannot allow to continue. This we cannot allow to continue.
Teodoro made these statements as the Philippine Navy celebrates its 126th anniversary today. In the ceremony, Navy personnel who participated in previous year supply missions to Ayungin Shoal were honored. The AFP meanwhile remains tight-lipped on when the next mission will be, especially with the ongoing issues surrounding discussions between a Chinese defense attaché and former AFP Western Command Chief Vice Admiral Alberto Carlos. The Philippine Navy meanwhile denied that this issue has anything to do with why Carlos was relieved from his post. Philippine Navy Flag Officer in Command Vice Admiral Toribio Adasi says he sees nothing wrong with military officials speaking with diplomats, but he admits that they are now more cautious in their discussions with foreign counterparts.
Casual engagements with foreign attachés is but a normal thing in social gatherings, even in the Philippine setting. But things like those are left to the discretion of parties.
While tensions between China and the Philippines are still ongoing, another Chinese vessel, identified as China Coast Guard Vessel 5901, was spotted near Panatag Shoal. American maritime security expert Ray Powell says this is regarded as the largest Coast Guard ship in the entire world. The ship entered Panatag just as China conducted military drills around Taiwan. The Navy refused to comment on how these military drills can impact the Philippines, but says they continue to monitor the Taiwan Strait.
And then, of course, anything that transpires around us should be watched keenly and observed because it may or may not have an effect on us.
Defense Secretary Teodoro also refused to comment on what is going on in Taiwan, which he described as an internal matter.
Manila Representative Benny Abante filed a bill that seeks to regulate or ban TikTok and other applications from, quote, any foreign adversary country. A foreign adversary country refers to any nation that can be considered as an enemy state or and territorial integrity. Congressman Abante voiced concern about the app TikTok, citing its parent company's possible connections to the Chinese government. This comes in the face of growing tensions between China and the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. TikTok Philippines has yet to comment on the matter.
Here to talk to us more about his proposed measure, we have with us on the show Manila Representative Benny Abante. Magandang gabi po, Congressman.
Magandang gabi po sa tatlong pinakamagandang news reporter.
Ay, maraming
Salamat
salamat
po sa bola.
po. Oo, bago mag-weekend, ano? Sakto-sakto. Pero,
Totoo yun.
straight into our topic for tonight. This isn't the first time that we're hearing a proposal on the ban of TikTok, and we actually spoke with a tech enthusiast, si Art Samaniego, at sinasabi niya na hanggang ngayon wala pa ring solid proof that ByteDance, the company behind TikTok, is connected to the Chinese government. What is the basis of this proposal and your thoughts on that?
Medyo inaharang yata tayo ng TikTok. Anyway, oo, dahil medyo erratic yung you know? But anyway, no? Pero ito yan. So, ang unang-unang question dito is this. Bakit kailangan natin ng panukalang ito? Why did I file this bill? House Bill number 10489. Well, you know, it is a very sad reality that there are nations in this world that we must be worried about. May mga bansa na taliwas ang interes ng ating bayan. One of them is China. All right? I mean, we have seen in the past month how the tension in the West Philippine Sea has increased. As a consequence. So we have the threats to our national security. And what are these threats, for example? I believe that these are genuine threats. Una, nakita natin ang kaso ng mga Chinese nationals na nag-enroll sa isang kolehiyo sa Cagayan Province. At nakapagtataka, bakit napakarami? 800 current enrollees in one university in Cagayan. And they're paying 10,000 pesos per course. in that university. Why in Cagayan? Bakit hindi sa Metro Manila napakaraming mga university? Dahil ba dito ang EDCA site natin nasa Cagayan? This is, to me, this is worrisome that I filed a resolution about it and the House has already begun looking into this. Pangalawa, mayroon tayong issue ng mayoran sa Tarlac who is of dubious origin. Hindi niya alam kung sino nanay niya, hindi niya alam kung kailan siya pinanganak, who is also subject to a congressional hearing in the Senate. Pangatlo, ito yan. Okay? Pangatlo, inamin mismo ng China that they're wiretapping ang ating mga opisyal, ating militar, at ating gobyerno. Naranasan po ito ng Coast Guard. All of these are disturbing signs that require us to be more conscious of the need to safeguard our national security. So, sa akin, TikTok and similar applications are threats to our national security. Because of these developments, I authored House Bill 10489. This is a measure intended to regulate, all right, what I refer to as foreign adversary control application. The app stores, the internet hosting services, through which users access them. Kasama po dito ang TikTok because for our people to know, TikTok has a parent company called ByteDance, BYTEDANCE, that has connection to the Chinese Communist Party or CCP. And the Chinese government, that cannot be ignored. So TikTok poses a threat to us as it collects personal data from its users and subscribers. Lahat ng mga subscribers po ng TikTok, hindi nila alam that their personal data is being collected. It is very alarming because TikTok can easily transmit this collected data to the Chinese government. That's the reason why I filed this bill.
Understood, Kong Benny, pero sa mga marami kasing gumagamit ng TikTok. Yung unang usapan, just for the sake of our viewers who may not be familiar nun sa history ng usapan ng pagbaba ng TikTok dito sa Pilipinas, yung unang pinupush nila is iban lang from official or government devices. Di po pinag-uusapan yung mga sa sibilyan, dun po sa mga TikTok sellers, dun po sa mga content creators, na yan po ang kanilang hanap buhay at puhunan. Maapektuhan po sila. Wala po ba tayong consideration for, the normal average Filipino user who could probably view this as some sort of censorship? Demokrasya po tayo dito. Given na wala nga po pang pruweba na may hocus-pocus na nagyayari with regard to infiltration of devices, etc. Ano pong masasabi ninyo sa, for sure, maraming aalma dito, Kong Benny?
Naniniwala naman tayo that the freedom of speech is not an absolute freedom. Now, look, other countries already recognize the threat posed by TikTok. And these are democratic countries. These are countries where the freedom of speech is very much free. Nagagawa po nila ito. Okay. Now, India, for example, imposed a nationwide ban on TikTok. While in the Philippines, we have 50 million users of TikTok who are actually democratic and free, have followed suit, like Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark. We have the European Union, we have France, we have Indonesia, we have the Netherlands, we have New Zealand, we even have Nepal, we have Norway, we have Pakistan, Taiwan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. We cannot deny the fact that these nations are democratic, these nations are free. But yet, they begin to realize and recognize the threat posed by TikTok and they banned it.
Clarify lang natin, Kong Benny. Kong Benny, we have to clarify, to be fair, that these countries did not impose an absolute ban on TikTok. Kung hindi, most of them just imposed bans on yung mga sa Ministry of Defense o yung Defense Department nila. Yeah, and national security agencies. Just to, linawin lang natin yung conversation natin tonight. But I think Angela has a question for
Kong,
you.
may nakausap na rin po ba kayo iba pang mga lawmakers regarding this? And marami po bang nag-pledge ng kanilang support regarding this bill?
Actually, hindi pa. Kasi once you file a bill like this, it goes to the Committee on Rules. And then it is assigned to other committees. So we actually do not know kung anong committee i-assign ito. So pag-uusapan pa yun ng committee hearing, and of course, tignan natin sa committee hearing kung dapat bang iban ito, kung dapat bang i-regulate ito, kung dapat bang iban. Kasi mahirap yung, for example, ibaban mo yan sa Bulacan. I know many of our kababayan enjoy this app. Totoo yun. Especially our youth, di ba? I also recognize that may mga kababayan tayo, mga tinatawag nating influencers na kumikita sa application na ito. But I am urging also all TikTok users, kahit wala pang batas, i-delete na natin ang apps na ito. Marami naman tayong magagamit na apps pa eh. Diba? Although sabihin natin, paborito ko yung TikTok. But the TikTok is only being used as a game. Eh. It is not actually being used as for news report or being used to speak on any issues in government, being used to give the news for the day. In fact, ang TikTok, ginagamit din atake ng ibang tao. Alright? Ginagamit din ito para mag-criticize. Sa mga kabataan, ginagamit itong TikTok as a game.
Kong Benny, kung okay lang sa'yo, kamustahin ka na lang.
Pleasurable.
Kong
So,
Benny.
ang pakiusap ko lamang, ang flip natin dito, yan natin maigi, ano ba mas priority natin? Maglaro tayo ng TikTok o ating tingnan ang national security natin?
Okay, abangan na lang natin pag-resume ng session sa SONA kung ano ang magiging diskusyon around TikTok.
And to be fair, tama naman po kayo sa mga punto po ninyo, pero TikTok, I believe, is also being used by newsrooms, also other people to send, to publish their work. Hindi lang naman po siguro yung mga di ba, na nakaka-detract sa mga tao. Pero we will leave that debate there.
At least for now.
For now.
Balikan ka po namin
Maraming
pag-resume
salamat
ng...
po dahil mukhang mahabahang usapan po ito. Maraming salamat for joining us tonight.
Pagpasok ng Kongreso.
Manila Representative
Correct.
Benny Abante, maraming salamat po.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break for now. Right after that, we will be speaking to our next guest tonight in person. She is a queen in both the pageant stage as well as the business scene. Get to know the story of Samantha Panlilio when the big story returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. This is still the big story here on One News. And eto na, Gretch, no? We will deliver on our promise.
One beauty queen after another. We have another one in the studio tonight. From walking the catwalk to running the family business, she is indeed the epitome of beauty and brains. Joining us here tonight is Miss Grand Philippines 2021 and now Chief Operating Officer of Boulevard Holdings and Puerto Azul Incorporated. We have on the show tonight Miss Samantha Panlilio. Welcome to the big story.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Girl boss. She is a girl boss. From being Binibining Pilipinas Grand International 2021,
Yes.
you are now a girl boss. What has led to this transition? And tell us all about the CEO life.
Sure. So essentially,
COO life.
COO
life.
soon to be, hopefully. But essentially, when I moved back from the U.S., I went to college there. And then afterwards, I gained some practical work experience. It was always kind of set in stone that when I move back to the Philippines, I'm going to help with the family business and, of course, apply what I've learned into the business. However, I find that the transition is not so difficult because, again, even in between competing in Binibining and Miss Grand and then after that Miss Universe Philippines last year, I was still working. So backstage, even during the pageant run, I would be working as well. So now that I'm solely focused on the family business, it's kind of exciting because I get to see my growth all the more.
What's interesting, Sam, is that you've described the usual route of someone who was born into a family with a set family business, usually
Yes.
spanning more than one generation, right?
Right.
And you kind of have that expectation when you're born that this is kind of,
This is what
kahit
you're
saan ka
gonna do.
pumunta, babalik ka rin dito.
Exactly.
Di ba? Was that something that you, kumbaga, okay lang ba yun sa'yo? Did you look forward to that? And how has, probably when you're eating lunch, your parents are talking about work, about the
Right,
business. So it's
right.
kind of ingrained in you since birth, probably.
A little bit. And
Yeah.
that's why I opted to join a pageant, just so that I could also carve my own path. And then it's funny enough, when I moved back to the Philippines, I found out my aunt Myrna Panlilio was actually the first ever Miss Universe Philippines. So I told my dad, hey, it's still a family legacy. Is this something that I can do? And he said, sure,
So you were doing the beauty pageantry world before you knew that your aunt was a beauty queen?
When I moved back.
Or when you moved
Yes,
back?
when I
Okay.
applied, and then a friend of a friend told me, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Even my dad didn't know. But
So you had to find out from someone
Yes,
else in the
yes.
pageant circuit.
it was a pleasant surprise, though.
Right. It's good that you mentioned your dad because your dad is Josel Panlilio and we
Yes.
all know that he's one of the business tycoons here in the Philippines. So what lessons, diba? What important lessons did you learn from him, especially in, running your family business?
Well, one of the key lessons that he often reminds us is to always keep all opportunities separate. And so in business, that means that if you have a deal, or two deals rather, it doesn't mean that you use the same techniques to be able to close it, nor do you use the same approach or the type of energy that you have in order to close it. And, just like in life, if you have separate opportunities, then be sure to always have good time management in order to achieve all of them.
Being able to say that this is one thing separate from this thing. But
Exactly.
how do you balance, speaking of separating those, running a family business, maintaining the legacy, and also putting into the mix your own entrepreneurial ventures
Yes.
and your own ideas?
Yes. Well, for me, I'm a firm believer that if you want to do something, you'll find any way to do so. And if you don't want to do it, you're just going to find an excuse. It's like if you're in a relationship, right? You find any way to go out with them. You make time to text them in the morning, no matter how busy you are. And the same goes with my personal businesses. I see it like a relationship. I see it in the same light, where no matter how tight my schedules are, because I have so much passion for it and because I want to do it.
But tell us all about your businesses. I mean,
Sure.
you run a luxury accommodations in Puerto Galera, Boracay, and Siargao.
Let's
Yes.
clarify,
Wow.
that's her
Photography
that's
studio
her
too.
family business.
That's my family
That's
Yeah.
the family
The
business.
resort.
And
Yes.
then you have a photography studio and a furniture
do.
business.
Yes.
And those go under your own
My
personal
personal
entrepreneurial
business.
ventures.
Yes. And the photography studio, I was actually very, very inspired because as a pageant queen, you have to do a lot of shoots, as they say, pasabog. So
Yes.
being able to work with people in the creative industry, I kind of know what they all need in the studio. So I said, might as well make it a business and be profitable at the same time.
Okay, let's talk about your resorts. I mean, I grew up, I learned how to swim in Puerto Azul.
Oh,
back in
nice.
the 80s. Maybe you weren't even born yet. But got stung by my first sea urchin there. Way back when, right? And then Fridays, I first saw it in 1986. It was the only resort in Boracay at that time with aircon.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad.
experience. Thank you to my parents also for dragging me around. But what are the plans to revitalize, and how do you balance, like how much do the resorts take up of your time, and how do you, balancing is the hardest?
Yes, well, currently we have Fridays Boracay under major renovation. We have demolished the whole thing, and we're going to rebuild from the ground up. So yes, it is a lot of time, especially when you're planning all the nitty-gritty details. As for Siargao, we're also still constructing, and so the only one that's operational right now is the one in Puerto Galera. So it's been okay.
Which one takes up your mind space the most in your heart?
I would say Friday Siargao is my baby. So I'm the one leading this project, whereas Boracay, since it's 100 to 110 keys, we need more people on board.
How about with all of your businesses that you're running?
Which is my baby.
Yeah.
You're asking her to pick her favorite child.
I would have to say Friday Siargao, because I had to go back to Siargao so many times. You have to learn about who your neighbors are, or
the community
what works.
there.
Yeah, what works for the demand and supply chain, right?
Would it be because that was also the resort that you birthed, like you conceptualized, you started it?
Exactly. And it's also, I had a trip to Morocco recently, hence why I'm doing my furniture business. I got so inspired by the art that I also translated that into a lot of the designs in the soon-to-be Friday Siargao. Yes.
You've conquered the beauty pageant scene, and now the real estate, and now the photography, etc., the arts. Just wondering if you're planning to join the show business.
You still have time.
What about you? No, but honestly, I was presented that opportunity a couple of years ago. However, the roles that were presented did not really align with my values, though, of course, like any other opportunity, I don't want to close my doors. So if there is something that aligns with my values and my branding, then why not?
Can you describe to us what your dream project would be like in terms of showbiz, maybe doing a movie? Like, what would make Sam Panlilio say yes to this project?
A horror film. I want to be in a horror show so bad, like shake, rattle, and roll.
Yeah,
I think it's iconic, and I think it would be so fun to work with the mastermind behind the franchise.
Oh, it's great for you to manifest that. Baka
Yes.
may nakikinig na director
Oh,
dyan.
or motherly.
Ano gusto mo, ikaw yung hinahabol o ikaw yung humahabol?
Pwedeng both.
How about public service?
Well, with politics and public service, I think it's very similar to pageantry, because before becoming a leader, of course, you have to give back to your community. And so, also being closely knit with real estate and land development, which is what I do, if this is a yes or no question, I can envision myself in politics. Why not?
So you're not, kumbaga, you're not canceling, closing your
Yeah.
doors or canceling anything out. Any
Yes.
option you will, take into consideration? Is that kind of thing?
Seize the day.
Yes, c'est la vie.
C'est la vie.
You still have time for your personal life, aka love life.
No, it's a love life
Asking
with
for
my
a friend.
love life with my personal ventures. Yes,
Okay
I will
na
always
talaga
make
kami
time.
mga busy.
So that's your priority now. If we were to ask Sam, what's your top priorities now that I think you're still fairly young? You're less than under 30. So how would you categorize and kind of compartmentalize your goals and your kumbaga, what
On
takes
top of
more?
your
Yes,
list.
on top of your
Okay,
list.
well,
Thank you,
on
Rach.
top of my list is definitely expanding the Fridays chain, and making sure that the 2 hotels are up and running by the end of 2026, hopefully.
And also, I'm super curious. I mean, you are doing, the kind of business, entering the kind of business, especially taking over your dad, right? It's kind of a man's world out there, right? You're talking to contractors, engineers, designers, etc. How hard has it been for you as a woman? And a good-looking one at that. I'm going to just say it because we know sometimes people will undermine you.
It could be a disadvantage.
It could be.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it is what it is, right? It is a man's world, but at the same time, I think it's such a blessing that I was able to grow up with my dad, who always taught me that, your voice matters, your opinion your opinions matter, and if you don't understand what's happening, just ask a question and move on. And so I think he really empowered me in that sense.
Do you still call him a lot, get his advice, maybe business advice, of course?
All the time. I mean, I see him every day at work, so I have no choice but to get his advice.
What's the big dream? What's the big vision for Samantha?
Well, the big vision is to just make sure that the family legacy continues, something that I can be proud to call my families, and also be proud to pass on to the generations to follow.
And out of curiosity, I know summer is almost over, what with the bagyo here, the first bagyo
Right.
of the year here, but of course, as I told you, I learned how to swim in Puerto Azul. I have not been there in decades. What can we look forward to with the redevelopment?
Yes, so I know there will be, Soler Group is coming in also as well. It was in the news a couple of months ago, and so that's something to look forward to.
I'm excited. I want to visit Friday Siargao.
Yeah.
Because she
Yes.
mentioned that's her baby.
We will send you some invites.
Okay, when will that open?
Hopefully the end of next year, so end of 2025, if there aren't so many bagyos.
Okay.
Well, you
Fair
are
enough.
breaking barriers in your own world, and we are inspired by your example.
Thank you.
We look forward to all the ventures and your dreams coming to life.
Reading about your new accomplishments on the news. Perhaps something we have not talked about tonight. Anything's possible.
Yes,
True.
indeed. And we end with woman power.
Right.
This week,
Right.
yesterday,
This
and
week,
today.
yes.
Very,
Well, thank
very
you,
proud
Sam,
to
for,
deliver
gracing-
that.
Yes. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence on this Friday night. Miss Grand Philippines 2021. And now, the Chief Operating Officer of Boulevard Holdings and Puerto Azul Incorporated, Samantha Pandillo. Okay, I'm going to shift it over to other news. Economic and business leaders gathered to talk about growth drivers and key issues. During Business World's Economic Forum, mobile journalist Mary Monreyes sums up today's event for us. Here's her report.
In an economic forum organized by Business World in Taguig City, JG Summit President and Chief Executive Officer Lance Y. Gokongwei emphasized how the country's economy would be boosted by having the state serve as a key enabler through facilitating the cost and ease of doing business, creation of job opportunities and livelihood by private companies, maximizing young Filipinos' potentials to be at par with the fast-changing times, and look into ways to revitalize the Philippines' manufacturing sector. Direct and indirect tourism should also be part of the economic growth plans due to the country's natural wonders and ideal locations for income-generating activities. In a separate speech, NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan also cited the need to make economic growth more inclusive. With the goal of reducing poverty to single-digit levels and to improve the lives of Filipinos, he said better access to high-quality employment and market opportunities and strengthening of social protection should be given, especially for lagging regions who have fallen behind. However, he also pointed out several factors that may hinder sustaining the country's economic growth. This would include constraints such as the poor state of the country's infrastructures, whether on connectivity like roads and railways, or within the digital sphere such as the internet and power, a notion supported by Globe Telecom Inc. Vice President Emmanuel L. Estrada. Issues related to this are said to have made operating costs higher than necessary and made local industries less competitive. Existing policies and regulations enacted on business operations should also be improved. When asked if geopolitical tensions, like with the country's currently heated debate on territory against China, would affect economic growth, Balisacan assured that the government is mindful of its diplomatic relationships and is working to achieve harmony across private and public sectors who have industry connections with China.
Because we are all part of the supply chain, a global supply chain. China is part of a major part of the global supply chain. Our industries are are connected to the supply chain. So you can't afford to isolate yourself from any of our neighbors. So we will continue to reach out to solve our problems, these geopolitical tensions in many fronts.
The need to raise financial literacy was also pointed out in the forum, as well as the benefits of public-private coordination to attract investments. The economy was said to have grown by 5.7% in the first quarter, slower than expected, and below the state's 6 to 7% target for the year. Mobile Journal Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
Sports update naman tayo. We end the week with good news.
More
After
good news?
their first win against Australia yesterday, Las Pilipinas has notched another win against the Indian powerhouse team in the ABC Challenge Cup 2024. Now, still at the Rizal Memorial Coliseum, Las Pilipinas gave India a hard time in the first set of the series. But it didn't stop the Indian team from snagging the first set due to errors 25-23. The Filipino Spikers made a comeback in the second set to the game with Angel Canino's crucial scores at the end of the set, 25-21. In the third set, Las Pilipinas maintained their momentum as they jumped to the lead, 25-17. In the fourth set of the game, our national team sealed the win and dealt India its first loss in the tournament. Wow. 2 wins to kick off the
Two
ABC
straight
Cup.
wins
this
this week.
Napakalaking bagay yan, ano? I mean, we are definitely moving up the ranks in the AVC and the international level because before, parang nakakachamba-chamba tayo ng mga panalo. Pero ito, I mean, it's convincing even yesterday. This one in 4 sets. And we have a very young roster.
Kumbaga ang sinasabi mo, Gretchen, hindi siya mukhang chamba lang. Hindi natin masasabi, ay, nakachamba lang to.
And we have younger athletes in the national team. Very, very promising. As we know, usually kasi ang Team Philippines, binubuo last minute. Ito rin medyo ganun
Parang
din.
gilas din.
Parang ganun din. Yung sakit ng Philippine sports yan eh. But this one, at least, they have earmarked several players already who will remain or possibly remain in the national team for the next years. So malaking bagay yan for Philippine volleyball. And also the crowds again have stormed Rizal Memorial Coliseum for the ABC Challenge Cup. We look forward. As you can see, we are at the top of the standings in our bracket. Philippines with 2 wins. India going second with 2 wins and 1 loss. Australia with 1 game apiece in the win and loss column. Iran with 1-1-2 and Chinese Taipei with no win and 3 losses.
So, tied tayo with India in terms of
Alam mo,
points at 6 points each.
Kailangan natin i-cherish yan dahil parang I don't remember the last time I saw the Philippines on top of the standings with teams from all around the world. Kasi madalas we lead pero sa Southeast Asian level.
Okay, well, we'll see, no? Medyo mahaba-haba pa tong AVC.
Correct.
So we'll see how Las Pilipinas continues to perform. And of course, we support them and we pray na maganda yung finish nila.
And another women win ulit today.
Sana more
This
girl
week,
power today.
girl power.
Yun ang
Parang
iniipon
swerte
namin
si Angela,
dito.
no?
Oo nga eh.
Sabi na Gina.
Wala, di ako nagsabi nun ah. Okay, ito na. Sa akin na naman yung bad news. Before we go, our big picture tonight pays tribute to a famous dog. Nako, ayoko nitong mga ganito eh. Kabosu, the Shiba Inu behind the Doge internet meme, has passed away. Kabosu's owner, a kindergarten teacher from Japan's Chiba Prefecture, announced the sad news. Kabosu started going viral online around 2013 and is now one of the most recognizable images on the web. The 18-year-old face of Dogecoin was diagnosed with leukemia and liver disease, but was able to pull through until today.
18. That's a long life already, right?
I mean, for a dog, that's incredibly long. Blessed na rin siguro.
Ano ba yung pinakamahabang alam mo na nabuhay yung isang aso?
Yung si Bobby, di ba? Si Bobby from Portugal.
Up to what age?
Up to parang nasa 20 plus? Almost
Wow.
30 years old. I think he's the Guinness. Pwede siya i-google, Bobby. Oh.
Galing.
Color brown
But
siya
this
na
one,
dog.
I cannot imagine yung feeling ng owner.
Lalo na sobrang niya sikip. I actually have a Dogecoin with Kabosu's face on it. Nabigay sa akin ng brother ko. Hindi naman ako nagka-crypto, but he just gave it to me. Remembrance daw. So, okay, still a lot of wins, I guess. On a final word, I guess, be prepared for possible rains this coming weekend. Alam ko, medyo big change siya from the extreme heat, but best be prepared. And that's it for the big story tonight and for the week.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in and have a good night.